So they really have to think of, across the top here, fat releases fat, it goes to the liver, it makes ketones. Ketones, go and feed the brain, they feed the heart, and they probably also feed the gut, which explains why a well-formulated ketogenic diet very frequently resolves irritable bowel syndrome and even inflammatory bowel disease. But we have effects on inflammation at the level of the lungs, we have effects on muscle physiology. People on a ketogenic diet who do extremes of exercise, I don't recommend people go out and run 100 miles, but there are people who do that voluntarily. And typically, when they eat a high-carb diet and a runner does a competitive 100-mile run, they take 6 weeks off before they go back to training. And it is not unusual for ketogenic runners. A, they don't hit the wall. They eat far fewer calories to get to the finish line. Some of them will eat 100 grams of carbs per hour. Most of the high-carb runners are eating 500 calories of carbs per hour and getting GI distress. But when they finish, the low-carb runners finish, typically within a week they're back out in training. So these are the two papers that came out in Science and subsequent paper by Eric Verdin and John Newman and their team at the Buck Institute showing that beta-hydroxybutyrate has a hormonal-like effect in altering our defenses against oxidative stress and inflammation. But how does oxidative stress turn into inflammation? One of the pathways is through the production of some breakdown products of polyunsaturated fat called isoprostanes. So we have polyunsaturated fats in our membranes and our muscles and most of the body. The dominant major active polyunsaturated fat in membranes is arachidonic acid in the brain. The major one is docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, one of the two fish oil fatty acids. These are highly susceptible to damage from free radicals. And if a free radical attacks arachidonic acid, it makes something that looks like a prostaglandin. But prostaglandins are made by enzymes, and when you take NSAIDs, you can block or reduce prostaglandin production. So that's how nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs reduce inflammation. They reduce the enzymatically determined production of things called prostaglandins. These are called isoprostanes because they're not made by enzymes. They're made by just reactive oxygen species approaching a cell membrane, attaching onto this, and producing an inflammatory compound. And so isoprostanes are one of the ways in which inflammation is driven by oxidative stress. So this leads me to hypothesize that there are two kinds of diets. Now, on the right-hand side is the ketogenic diet. And that has two ways of reducing oxidative stress and reducing inflammation. I'll cover those, one of the other ones I haven't mentioned yet. But on the left-hand side, notice I don't say balanced diet. It's a ketone-suppressing diet. If you eat enough carbs that you don't have ketones, you're suppressing a normal ketogenic state that represents much of our evolutionary history.